The Hunger of Teniente Guillermo, a horror novel by John Rodriguez. In the Visayan provinces, hunger has many names. Some call it gutom, others call it aswang. Between these two words lies the story of Dueñas, Iloilo, and of a barrio lieutenant named Guillermo Labang. Teniente Guillermo to those who feared him, Tatay to the daughter he reportedly ate one dawn in 1958. The envelope smelled of cane vinegar and something sweeter, like a corpse left in the sun. Leticia Valdez held it between two fingers, her other hand gripping the edge of her desk at Mabini Elementary School in Manila. The paper was yellowed, rough-textured, the kind still made in the provinces where fiber was beaten by hand. The postmark read, Dueñas, Iloilo, a place she had not spoken of in 20 years. Outside, the afternoon traffic of Taft Avenue roared and belched diesel fumes. Inside her classroom, the oscillating fan clicked rhythmically, pushing hot air from one corner to another. Her students had gone home an hour ago, leaving behind the chalk dust and sweat smell of fourth graders in May heat. She should have left too. But the envelope had been waiting in her cubby in the faculty room, tucked beneath a stack of ungraded test papers, and something about it had made her hands go cold. The handwriting was a child's. Careful block letters in fountain pen ink that had bled slightly into the fibers. Teacher Leticia Valdez, Mabini Elementary School, Malate, Manila. No return address. Just that smell, vinegar and rot and something else. Something that made her think of Petromax lamps hissing in the dark, of rain hammering on Kogan roofs, of a house that stood on stilts above ground that never seemed to dry. Her hands trembled as she broke the seal. Inside a single sheet of paper, the same rough texture, the same childish handwriting, but the words made her breath catch. Maayong hapon, Teacher Leti. Namigid ang fiesta subong sa Calublub. Maabot ka bala? Nagahulat kami. Eulalia, good afternoon, Teacher Leti. The fiesta here in Calublub is beautiful. Will you come? We are waiting. Leticia's vision blurred. The room tilted. She gripped the desk harder, feeling the cheap varnish sticky under her palm. 20 years. 20 years since she had heard that name. 20 years since she had climbed onto a bus in Iloilo City and sworn never to return to Dueñas, never to speak of what happened during the barrio fiesta of 1958. Eulalia Labang, the daughter of Teniente Guillermo, the girl who had burned when the sun rose. Leticia forced herself to breathe. Imposable. Impossible. This was someone's sick joke. Some cousin of Sophia's, perhaps, who remembered the stories. Sophia, who had been with her that night. Sophia, who had died 3 years ago, drowned in a river in Negros, her body found with strange marks on her throat, as if something with a very long tongue had tried to suck the life from her windpipe. The news had reached Leticia through a former classmate's letter. She had not gone to the funeral. She had sent flowers and a mass card and tried not to think about the way Sophia had screamed in her sleep for years after they escaped Calublub, the way she would wake up gasping, saying she smelled vinegar and burnt hair. Leticia read the letter again. The Hiligaynon words were spelled correctly, with the old Spanish-influenced orthography they had used in the 50s, before the new spelling reforms. Maabot ka bala? Not magsulud ka bala? Or any of the other regional variations. This was Calublub dialect, pure and specific. She turned the envelope over. On the back, pressed into the paper as if by a heated brand, was a small image, not printed, burned, the outline of a house on stilts, and beneath it a single word in the old Baybayin script her grandmother had taught her to read. Gutom, Hunger. Part 1, 1958. Chapter 1. The bus to Dueñas had no windows, just wooden shutters propped open with sticks, and the dust of the Iloilo countryside swirled through the cabin like something alive. Leticia was 13 years old, and everything smelled like green mangoes and sweat. Beside her, Sophia pressed her face to the gap where a shutter should have closed, her careful finger waves already coming loose in the wind. "Look, Letty, carabaos." Leticia looked. The water buffalo stood in muddy paddies, their dark hides slick, their curved horns catching the late afternoon light. An old man sat on one's back, bare-chested, a salakot hat shading his face. He waved at the bus. Sophia waved back, delighted. They were city girls, both of them. Iloilo City, born and raised, daughters of ilustrados. Sophia's father was a physician, Leticia's a government clerk. They attended Colegio de Santa Rosa, where the nuns rapped their knuckles if they spoke Hiligaynon instead of proper Tagalog or English. They wore starched uniforms and patent leather shoes, and had never, until today, ventured into the deep provinces. But Eulalia had invited them. Eulalia Labang, the quiet girl who had transferred to their school in January. She was their age, but seemed older somehow, with dark eyes that watched everything and a way of moving that made no sound. She wore the same uniform as the rest of them, but hers was never crisp, always slightly rumpled, smelling faintly of wood smoke and something else, a sourness like tamarind or old vinegar. The other girls avoided her. They whispered that she came from a place where people still believed in the old ways, where aswang walked at night and you had to say tabi-tabi po before stepping over tree roots or risk angering the nuno, sapunso, who lived beneath. But Leticia had felt sorry for her. When Eulalia sat alone at lunch, Leticia had joined her. When the other girls giggled behind their hands, Sophia, kind, sweet Sophia, had offered to share her merienda. And Eulalia had smiled, a small, private smile. "Come to our barrio fiesta," she had said one day, her voice soft as moth wings. "My father is the teniente. He will be honored to host you. It is only for a weekend. You will see the real Iloilo. Not this city pretending to be Manila." She had written a letter to their parents, beautifully formal, explaining that Barangay Calublub would celebrate the feast of San Isidro Labrador, patron of farmers, with a 3-day fiesta. There would be a parade, a dance, lechon and pancit, and the best bibingka in the province. She would personally guarantee their safety and virtue. Leticia's mother had hesitated. But Leticia's father, who believed in the new Philippines, the one being built by President Magsaysay, modern, free of superstition, had approved. "Let her see how the province lives," he said. "She should know more than just Calle Real and the plaza." Sophia's parents had agreed more readily. Dr. Reyes was a modern man, a Thomasite-educated physician who scoffed at folk medicine and ghost stories. And so here they were, on a bus held together by rust and prayer, bouncing along a dirt road that cut through sugarcane fields and coconut groves. Eulalia sat across the aisle, her hands folded in her lap, her expression serene. She wore a simple cotton dress, pale blue, with embroidered flowers at the collar. Her hair was pulled back in a single braid. She looked like any provincial girl going home for a fiesta. But Leticia noticed things. The way the other passengers avoided looking at Eulalia directly. The way an old woman clutched her rosary when Eulalia walked past to board the bus. The way the driver had paused, his hand on the gear shift, and muttered something under his breath, "Tabi-tabi po," before allowing them to enter. "Are you excited?" Eulalia asked, her voice carrying easily over the rattle of the engine. "Very," Sophia said, always the enthusiastic one. "I've never been to a real barrio fiesta, only the ones in the city." "This will be different," Eulalia promised. Her smile widened slightly. In the slanting light, her teeth seemed very white. You will taste things you have never tasted before. The bus lurched over a pothole. Outside, the sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in shades of mango and blood orange. The sugarcane fields gave way to denser vegetation, thick stands of bamboo, banana trees with leaves like tattered flags, vines that strangled everything they touched. "How much farther?" Leticia asked. "Not far now," Eulalia pointed ahead. "See the smoke? That is Calublub." Leticia saw it, thin columns rising from cooking fires, gray against the darkening sky. As the bus rounded a bend, the barrio came into view. A cluster of houses on stilts, their roofs thatch or corrugated tin, spread along both sides of the road like scattered dominoes. A small chapel stood at one end, whitewashed and weathered. A sari-sari store at the other, its front hung with faded advertisements for Tanduay rum and magnolia milk. And in the center, larger than the others, was a house that seemed to crouch rather than stand. 2 stories built from dark hardwood that gleamed dully in the fading light. The windows were shuttered. The silong, the space beneath the house, was enclosed with bamboo slats, creating a shadowy cavity where nothing could be clearly seen. Above the door, carved into the lintel, was a symbol Leticia did not recognize. It looked like a bird, or a bat, or something in between. "That is our home," Eulalia said, following Leticia's gaze. Her voice held an unmistakable note of pride. "Ang balay sang Labang, the house of Labang. My family has lived there for 7 generations." The bus shuddered to a stop in front of the chapel. The driver killed the engine, crossed himself, and announced in rapid Hiligaynon, "Calublub, 15 minutes. We leave when the rooster crows. Or before, if I feel like it." A few passengers laughed nervously. Most simply gathered their things and hurried off, melting into the gathering dusk. Eulalia stood, smooth and graceful. "Come, my father is waiting." Leticia and Sophia climbed down, their small suitcases heavy in their hands. The moment their feet touched the ground, Leticia felt it, a change in the air. The smell was different here, rich earth, rotting vegetation, smoke, and underneath it all, that same sour-sweet note she associated with Eulalia, vinegar and something else. A man emerged from the large house. He was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a white camisa de chino and dark trousers. His face was handsome in a rough way, with high cheekbones and a strong jaw. His smile was wide, welcoming. "Mayong gabi. Good evening," he called, his voice booming. "Welcome, welcome to our humble home. I am Guillermo Labang, but everyone calls me Gimo." He laughed, a deep sound that echoed off the houses. "Come, come. You must be tired from your journey. We have prepared a special meal." He strode toward them, and Leticia saw that he moved with a peculiar grace, like a large cat. Behind him, other figures emerged from the house. A woman, Eulalia's mother, presumably, with the same dark eyes and pale skin. 2 younger children, a boy and a girl, both staring with unsettling intensity. And an older man, bent and gnarled, leaning on a cane made from black wood. "This is my wife, Remedios," Gimo said, "and my other children, Guillermo Jr., we call him Jun, and little Maria, and my father, Teodoro." Remedios bowed her head slightly. "Kumusta kamo?" Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. The children said nothing. They simply stared. The old man, Teodoro, tilted his head to one side, his eyes cloudy with cataracts. He sniffed the air. Once, twice. Then he smiled, revealing teeth filed to points. "Tambok gid," he murmured. "Very fat, very plump." Leticia's hand tightened on her suitcase, but Sophia, oblivious, stepped forward with her brightest smile. "Thank you so much for having us," she said in careful Tagalog. "We are honored." Guillermo laughed again and clapped Sophia on the shoulder, making her stumble slightly. No need for formality. You are our guests. Come, come. The fiesta begins tomorrow, but tonight we eat like kings. He took Sophia's suitcase in one massive hand and Leticia's in the other, lifting them as if they weighed nothing. Then he turned and walked toward the dark house, and there was nothing to do but follow. As they climbed the wooden stairs to the front door, Leticia glanced back. The bus was already pulling away, its single tail light disappearing into the night. The barrio was quiet, too quiet. No children playing, no voices calling to each other, just smoke rising from cooking fires and the distant sound of something crying in the forest. Not a baby, not a bird, something else. Eulalia took Leticia's hand. Her fingers were cold despite the heat. "Do not worry," she whispered. "You are safe here. My father would never let anything happen to you." Her smile, in the faint light from the house, did not reach her eyes. "Not until we are ready." And then they were inside. Chapter 2. The interior of the house smelled of tub and roasting meat. A long table dominated the main room, made from a single slab of Nara wood, so dark it looked black. It was set for a feast. Clay plates, tin cups, banana leaves for placemats. In the center, a whole lechon glistened, its skin crackling and golden, its mouth stuffed with lemongrass. Around it, bowls of pancit, platters of grilled fish, mounds of white rice, dishes of adobo swimming in vinegar and soy sauce. And liver, so much liver. Grilled ate on skewers, dinuguan in clay pots, the blood-black stew thick and steaming, chicken liver adobo, even the lechon's organs arranged on a separate platter, glistening and dark. "We believe in using everything the land provides," Guillermo said, noticing Leticia's expression. "Nothing goes to waste, especially not the best parts." He winked. "City folk are too delicate, always cutting away the organs, throwing them to the dogs. But that is where the strength is. The laman lube, the inside meat." He gestured to the table. "Sit, sit. You must be hungry." They sat, Leticia and Sophia on one side, Eulalia between them. The rest of the Labang family arranged themselves opposite, their eyes bright in the lamplight. A Petromax lantern hissed on a shelf, casting jumping shadows on the walls. The windows remained shuttered despite the heat. Remedios served them personally, piling their plates high. "Eat," she murmured. "You are too thin, both of you, like little birds. You need meat on your bones." "Kamot lang," Teodoro said from the head of the table, his voice rattling like dry leaves. "Use your hands. Food tastes better that way. You feel the life in it." Sophia hesitated, then picked up her spoon. Leticia did the same. They were raised to be polite. The food was delicious. That was the terrible part. The lechon's skin shattered between their teeth, the fat melting on their tongues. The pancit was perfectly seasoned, the noodles slippery and savory. Even the dinuguan, which Leticia normally avoided, was rich and complex, tasting of earth and iron and something indefinably wild. "Good, yes?" Guillermo said, grinning. He ate with his hands, tearing chunks of meat, sucking the bones clean. "Namit gid. Very delicious. My wife is the best cook in Calublub, maybe in all of Iloilo." Remedios smiled, a small, secret smile. John and Maria ate silently, their eyes never leaving the guests. Maria was perhaps 6 years old, with tangled hair and bare feet. John looked about 10, thin and wiry. Both of them ate only the liver and organs, ignoring the rice and vegetables. "They have particular tastes," Eulalia explained, seeing Leticia watch them. "Since they were babies, they will not touch anything else." "Strange," Sophia said, then immediately looked embarrassed. "I mean, children can be picky." "Oh, they are not picky," Guillermo said, laughing his booming laugh. They know what they want. Like their grandfather, like all Labangs. We have always known our own hungers. He reached across the table and speared a piece of liver with his knife, bringing it to his mouth. In the lamplight, his teeth seemed longer than they should be. Sharper. Leticia looked down at her plate and forced herself to keep eating. The food was good. Everything was fine. This was just a provincial family with provincial ways. Her father had told her to keep an open mind, to not let city prejudices cloud her judgment. But the smell, that sour, sweet smell, it was stronger here inside the house. It seemed to come from everywhere. The walls, the floor, the family themselves, vinegar and rot and something else, something that made her lizard brain scream danger. Predator, run. Tell us about the city, Remedios said suddenly. Her voice was still soft, but it carried an edge of hunger. Not for food, for something else. What is it like living in Iloilo City? So many people, so many lights. Sophia, warming to a familiar subject, began to talk. She described the plaza, the cathedral, the new cinema that showed American movies, the ice cream parlor on Cal Real, the jeepneys painted in bright colors, the noise and the bustle and the feeling that the world was changing, becoming modern. The Labangs listened with an intensity that was unsettling. They did not blink. They barely breathed. Their eyes tracked Sophia's gestures, her expressions, the movement of her throat as she swallowed. "And what do you eat there?" Teodoro asked, his cloudy eyes fixed on Sophia. "In the city?" "Oh, all sorts of things," Sophia said. "There is a restaurant that serves American food, hamburgers and hot dogs, and Chinese food, lumpia and siopao, and of course Filipino food, but fancier than, prepared differently." She flushed, realizing how that sounded. Guillermo laughed, not offended. Fancy food, cooked by people who do not know hunger, who have never felt the belly gnaw at the spine, the throat burn for something fresh and warm. He leaned forward. That is the problem with the modern world. Everyone forgets what it means to be truly hungry, to need, to hunt. "Father," Eulalia said quietly. A warning. Guillermo sat back, his smile never wavering. "Forgive me. I get passionate about food. It is the farmer in me. We live close to the land here, close to the old ways." After dinner, Remedios showed them to their room. It was on the second floor, small but clean, with 2 mats laid out on the bamboo slat floor. A single window, shuttered. A small table with a basin and pitcher of water. On the wall, a faded print of the Santo Niño in a cheap frame. "The bathroom is downstairs," Remedios said. "In the back. If you need to go in the night, take the lamp. And do not go outside. The forest is full of things that should not be disturbed." "What things?" Leticia asked before she could stop herself. Remedios looked at her, and for a moment her pleasant mask slipped. Her eyes were completely black, the pupils swallowing the iris. "Hungry things," she said simply. "Things that smell city girls and think of easy prey. Stay inside. You are safe inside." Then she smiled and her eyes were normal again, dark brown flecked with gold. "Sleep well. Tomorrow is the fiesta. You will need your strength." She closed the door behind her. Leticia heard footsteps descending the stairs, then silence. Sophia immediately went to the window and tried to open the shutters. They were latched from the outside. "That's odd," she murmured. "Everything here is odd," Leticia whispered. She kept her voice low, suddenly certain they were being listened to. "Did you see the way they looked at us? The way they ate?" "They are just provincial people," Sophia said, but she sounded uncertain. "Different customs. And the smell. Don't tell me you don't smell it." Sophia wrinkled her nose. "The vinegar, probably just from the adobo." "Not just vinegar. Something else. Something wrong." A soft knock on the door made them both jump. Eulalia entered without waiting for an answer. She carried 2 thin cotton nightgowns. "I thought you might be more comfortable in these," she said. "The heat here is different from the city, thicker." "Thank you," Sophia said, taking them. The fabric was old, worn soft by many washings, and it smelled of sun and soap. Normal smells. Comforting. Eulalia lingered in the doorway. "I am glad you came," she said. Her voice was different now, younger, almost vulnerable. "I have never had friends before, not real friends." Leticia felt a pang of guilt for her suspicions. "We are glad to be here," she said, and meant it. Whatever strangeness surrounded this family, Eulalia herself had always been kind. Lonely, perhaps, isolated, but kind. Eulalia smiled. "Tomorrow will be wonderful. You will see. The whole barrio comes alive during fiesta. There will be dancing and games and so much food." She paused. "And tomorrow night, the real celebration begins. After dark." "What happens after dark?" Sophia asked. "Everything," Eulalia said simply. Then she stepped back into the hallway. "Sleep now. Matulog na kamo. Sweet dreams." The door closed. They heard her footsteps retreating, then the creak of another door opening and closing. Leticia and Sophia changed into the nightgowns in silence. They lay down on the mats, pulling thin blankets over themselves despite the heat. The Petromax lamp downstairs had been extinguished, and the darkness was absolute. No street lights, no glow from neighboring houses. Just black. "Letty," Sophia whispered. "Yes?" "Do you think the stories are true about aswang?" Leticia's grandmother had told her stories. All the old people did. The aswang who could separate their torsos from their legs and fly through the night, searching for pregnant women to devour. The aswang who could take the shape of dogs or pigs or beautiful women. The aswang who ate the dead and sometimes the living, who smelled like vinegar and animal musk, who feared only garlic, salt, and the crow of a rooster at dawn. "No," Leticia said, trying to sound certain. "They are just stories. Ways to explain things people don't understand. My father says they are holdovers from before education, before science." "My father says the same thing," Sophia said, but she did not sound convinced. From somewhere below they heard movement. Footsteps. Voices speaking in low tones, the words indistinct but the rhythm wrong, like a language that was almost Hiligaynon but not quite, or like Hiligaynon spoken backward. Then silence. Then from very far away that sound again. The crying that was not a baby or a bird. Closer now. Sophia reached out in the darkness and found Leticia's hand. They lay like that, holding on to each other, until exhaustion finally pulled them under, into uneasy sleep. Leticia woke to the sound of footsteps directly below their room. The bamboo slats of the floor transmitted every vibration. Slow, heavy steps. Pacing, back and forth. Then a sound like sniffing. Long, deep inhalations, as if someone were trying to smell something through the floorboards. She lay perfectly still, her heart hammering. Beside her, Sophia's breathing had changed, quick and shallow. She was awake too. The sniffing continued, then a voice so low it was almost a growl. "Tambok, bata pa, malinis." Fat, still young, clean. Another voice, higher. "Ugma na lang." "Tomorrow." The first voice again. "Indi. Ugma may fiesta. Madamo ang tao. Masaptan nila kung may kulang." "No. Tomorrow there is a fiesta. Many people. They will notice if someone is missing." A third voice, creaking like old wood. "Bago pa ang bulan, hindi pa tama ang panahon." The moon is still new. The time is not yet right. Then Gimo's voice, unmistakable. "Ugma sa gabi. Pagkatapos sang tanan nga bisita maghalin, dira kita, ang duha ka bata." Tomorrow night, After all the guests leave, then we feast, the two children. A sharp sound, like a slap. Remedios. Natabuan gid. Enough. Magsulti sa baba, hindi sagwa. Basi mabatian nila. Speak inside, not out here. They might hear. Silence. Then the footsteps retreated. A door closed somewhere at the back of the house. Leticia's whole body was shaking. Sophia's hand was clamped on her arm so tightly it hurt. Diosco, Sophia breathed. My God, did you hear? Yes. They want to. Yes. They lay in the suffocating darkness, their minds racing. The conversation had been in Hiligaynon, rapid and colloquial, but clear enough, unmistakable. The Labang family planned to eat them. Tomorrow night, after the fiesta. Sophia started to cry, silent tears streaming down her face. Leticia felt her own eyes burning, but something else was rising in her chest. Not panic, but a cold, hard determination. Her grandmother's voice echoed in her memory. Ang aswang, baho nila pareho sang suka kag patay nga hayop. Nahadlok sila sa luya kag ahos. Kag sang mataas pa ang adlaw, wala sila sang gahom. The aswang, they smell like vinegar and dead animals. They fear ginger and garlic. And when the sun is high, they have no power. We have to get out of here, Leticia whispered. How? The bus doesn't come until the day after tomorrow. The doors are locked. The windows. Tomorrow, Leticia said, her mind working frantically. During the fiesta, when there are people around, we find someone. We tell them. Tell them what? That our host wants to eat us. What if they don't believe us? What if they are all... Sophia couldn't finish the sentence. What if the whole barrio knew? What if they were all aswang? Or what if they knew what the Labangs were and did nothing, out of fear or complicity? We have to try, Leticia said. We have to survive until tomorrow night. Stay alive. Stay awake if we have to. And when we get a chance, we run. Sophia nodded in the darkness, though Leticia could not see it. Together. Together. They did not sleep again that night. They lay rigid on their mats, listening to every sound, the rustle of palm fronds against the roof, the distant call of a night bird, the creak of the house settling. And once, just before dawn, a sound from directly beneath the house, in the silong, a wet, tearing noise and the crack of something breaking. Bones, perhaps. Or perhaps it was just their imagination. When the first gray light began to seep through the cracks in the shutters, they heard a rooster crow. Somewhere in the barrio, a legitimate rooster greeting the day. The house seemed to shudder. Or perhaps it was just the morning breeze. The footsteps below did not resume. Whatever had been pacing in the night had retreated. For now. Chapter 3. Morning came with the smell of bibinka and coconut coffee. When Leticia and Sophia descended the stairs, the main room had been transformed. The table was set for breakfast with fresh pandesal, fried tuyo, sliced tomatoes, and steaming rice bibinka, topped with salted egg and cheese. Remedios stood at the clay stove, tending a blackened pot. She looked up and smiled. Mayong aga. Did you sleep well? Her face was pleasant, maternal. There was no hint of the creature who had hissed in the night about moon phases and the proper time to feast. Very well, thank you, Sophia lied. Her voice only trembled slightly. Eulalia was already seated, eating delicately. She had changed into a fresh dress, yellow with white flowers, and her hair was braided with sampaguita blooms. She looked like an illustration from a children's book. The fiesta begins at noon, she announced brightly. First the parade from the chapel, then the blessing of the fields, then the feast in the plaza. And tonight, dancing. John and Maria sat at the far end of the table, watching the guests with unblinking eyes. They had not touched their breakfast. Instead, each had a small clay bowl filled with something dark and raw. Leticia tried not to look too closely. Guillermo strode in from outside, wiping his hands on a rag. He smelled of earth and sweat and that ever-present vinegar sourness. The preparations are almost ready. This will be the best fiesta Calublub has seen in years. People are coming from as far as Passy. Even the mayor will be here. He beamed at Leticia and Sophia. You are our honored guests. You will ride on the float with Eulalia. The whole barrio will see how modern young ladies from the city come to celebrate with us. It will be good for our reputation. There was an edge to that last sentence, something bitter beneath the bonhomie. We are honored, Leticia said carefully. She forced herself to eat the bibinka, to sip the coffee. They needed strength. They needed to appear normal. After breakfast, Eulalia took them on a tour of the barrio. In daylight, Calublub looked almost charming. A scattering of houses along the dirt road, children playing in the yards, women hanging laundry, men repairing fish traps. The chapel was small but well maintained, its bell tower home to a family of doves. The sari-sari store sold everything from soap to sardines, and the proprietor, an ancient woman with beetle nut-stained teeth, greeted Eulalia with wary respect. "Kumusta ang teniente?" she asked. "How is the lieutenant?" "Maayo man," Eulalia said. "Well, abunansya ang pagkaon karon." "There is abundant food now." The old woman glanced at Leticia and Sophia, and something flickered in her rheumy eyes. Fear? Pity? But she said nothing, just nodded and turned back to her wares. They saw other people preparing for the fiesta, stringing paper banners between the houses, roasting whole pigs over open pits, setting up tables and benches in the plaza. Everyone greeted Eulalia. Everyone smiled, but no one held her gaze for long, and no one approached to chat or gossip the way they might with any other young woman. "They respect my family," Eulalia explained, though no one had asked. "My grandfather's grandfather helped establish this barrio. We have always been the leaders here, the protectors." "Protectors from what?" Sophia asked. Eulalia's smile was enigmatic. "From hunger, from want. We make sure everyone is provided for." She gestured to the preparations. "See how plentiful everything is? The harvest was good this year. No one went without." Leticia noticed things, though, the way people touched anting amulets when Eulalia passed, the small bundles of garlic hanging over doorways, the crosses scratched into lintels, and in one window, half hidden behind a curtain, a small statue of the Santo Niño, but facing outward toward the street, toward the Labang house. Her grandmother had told her, when the Santo Niño faces out instead of in, it is to repel evil, to keep something from entering. They returned to the Labang house for lunch. More liver, more organs, more rich, delicious food that Leticia could barely swallow. Her stomach was knotted with fear, but she forced it down. They could not afford to seem suspicious. At noon, the church bell rang and the fiesta began. The parade was a riot of color and noise. Children in traditional barong and terno carrying paper flowers, men beating drums and kulintang gongs, a brass band playing a off-key but enthusiastic march. And at the center, carried on the shoulders of 6 men, a life-size statue of San Isidro Labrador, the farmer saint, his painted face serene, his hand raised in blessing. Behind the saint's float came another, smaller one, a platform decorated with palm fronds and sampaguita garlands. Eulalia, Leticia, and Sophia rode it, waving to the crowd like beauty queens. The whole barrio seemed to have turned out, plus visitors from neighboring towns. Hundreds of people, all clapping and cheering. Leticia searched the crowd desperately. Surely someone here was safe, someone who could help them. The priest, perhaps, a thin young man in white vestments who led the procession, or the mayor, a portly man in a too-tight suit. But how could she approach them? What could she say that wouldn't sound like hysteria? The parade wound through the barrio, past every house, then to the fields where the harvest would soon begin. There the priest blessed the land, sprinkling holy water, intoning prayers in Latin. Then came the feast. Tables groaned under the weight of food: lechon, pancit, lumpia, grilled fish, rice cakes, fresh fruit, whole caldereta stews in clay pots, and desserts: bibingka, suman, buko salad, leche flan. The smell was intoxicating. Leticia and Sophia sat at the head table with the Labang family and the barrio officials. They were served first, generous portions. People came by to greet them, to ask about the city, to marvel at their proper Tagalog and their nice dresses. And all the while Gimo held court, laughing and jovial, recounting stories of past fiestas, of good harvests and hard times. He was a natural leader, charismatic and commanding. People listened when he spoke. They deferred to him. But Leticia watched the other villagers, saw how they avoided looking at the Labang family directly, how they ate quickly and moved away, how they clutched their children a little tighter when Teodoro's cloudy gaze swept across them. This was not respect. It was fear. As the afternoon wore on and the sun began its descent, people started to leave. The visitors from other towns were the first to go, citing the long journey home. Then the families with small children. By sunset, only the barrio residents remained, and even they were packing up, gathering leftovers, making excuses. "Stay for the dancing," Gimo called out. "The night is young." But they demurred, polite but firm. Soon the plaza was empty except for the Labangs and their guests. "No matter," Gimo said, though his smile had taken on a sharp edge. "We will have our own celebration. A private party. Much better that way." He stood, stretching. "Come, back to the house. Remedios has prepared something special for dinner." Leticia's blood turned to ice. She looked at Sophia, saw her own terror reflected there. "Actually," Sophia said, her voice high and strained, "I'm not feeling well. The heat, I think. Perhaps we should—" "Nonsense," Remedios said, appearing beside them like a shadow. "A little rest and you will be fine. Come, a cool bath and some salabat ginger tea." Her hand closed around Sophia's wrist. Her grip was iron. They had no choice. They followed the family back to the dark house on stilts, the house that crouched like a predator. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood. And as they climbed the stairs, Leticia glanced down at the silong, the space beneath the house. The bamboo slats had gaps between them. Through one gap she saw a hand, gray-skinned, hanging. Then another, and another. A row of corpses suspended from hooks like meat in a butcher shop. She bit back a scream and kept walking, kept her face neutral. Sophia had not seen. Sophia must not see. Not yet. They needed a plan. They needed time. And time was running out. Chapter 4. The bathroom was at the back of the house, a small wooden structure built over a pit. To reach it, one had to descend the stairs and walk through the silong, that dark space beneath the main dwelling where the corpses hung. Leticia forced herself to go. She needed to see, needed to understand what they were dealing with. She took the Petromax lamp Remedios had given her, its hissing light casting wild shadows. The stairs creaked beneath her feet. At the bottom, she paused, letting her eyes adjust. The silong was larger than it appeared from outside. The ground was dirt, packed hard. The bamboo slats of the walls let in thin strips of fading daylight. And from the ceiling beams, she raised the lamp. 7 bodies, maybe 8. It was hard to tell. Some were little more than skeletons wrapped in gray skin. Others were fresher. A young man, his eyes gone, his belly opened and empty. An old woman, her mouth frozen in a scream. A child. They hung from iron hooks, the kind used for slaughtering pigs. Beneath them, the dirt was stained black. Leticia's gorge rose. She clapped a hand over her mouth, forcing the bile back down. She could not scream, could not react. She was supposed to be using the bathroom, nothing more. She made herself look closer. The bodies were drained, hollow. Whatever had killed them had eaten them from the inside out, taking the organs, leaving the shells. Just as the story said, ang aswang ay nagkakaon sang laman loob. The aswang eats the viscera. One of the corpses was recent enough that she could still make out the face. A woman, perhaps 30. She wore a faded floral dress. Her hands were tied. Had she been a guest too? An invitation to dinner that became something else? Leticia heard footsteps above. The floor creaked. Voices murmured. She moved quickly to the bathroom, used it, splashed water on her face from the cistern. When she returned through the silong, she kept her eyes straight ahead, not looking at the dead. The lamp trembled in her hand. Upstairs, the family was gathered in the main room. Eulalia sat on a mat, braiding Maria's hair. Jun was reading a comic book, his lips moving silently. Teodoro dozed in a rocking chair, his mouth open, revealing those filed teeth. Gimo and Remedios were speaking in low tones near the kitchen area. They fell silent when Leticia entered. "Feeling better?" Remedios asked, all sweetness. "Yes, thank you." "Good. Dinner will be ready soon. Something special tonight. A recipe passed down through generations." Her smile widened. "You will never forget it." Leticia climbed the stairs to their room, where Sophia waited, pale and shaking. "I saw them," Leticia whispered. "Downstairs. The bodies. 8, maybe more." Sophia made a small, choked sound. "We have to get out. Tonight." "How? They will be watching." Leticia's mind raced, her grandmother's stories. "What did you do against a swang?" "Salt, holy water, ginger, garlic, and most importantly, light. The light of day, roosters crowing at dawn. Ang aswang ay nahadlok sang adlaw. The aswang fears the sun. But it was only sunset now. Dawn was hours away. They would never survive the night if the family decided to feed. Unless... "We need garlic," Leticia said. "What?" "Garlic. The stories say a swang cannot stand it. It repels them. Burns them, maybe." "Where are we going to get garlic?" Leticia thought of the kitchen downstairs. Surely there was garlic. Every Filipino kitchen had garlic. But Remedios would be there, preparing the special dinner. "We need to create a distraction," she said slowly. "One of us keeps them busy while the other searches." "And then what? We rub garlic on ourselves and run into the forest in the dark." It sounded insane when put that way. But what choice did they have? "We wait until they sleep," Leticia said. "We stuff garlic in our clothes, our pockets, then we climb out a window. The windows are latched from outside. Then we break one, or we go through the silong while they are upstairs. We run to the chapel. Churches are sacred ground. They cannot enter." It was thin. It was desperate. But it was something. Sophia took a shaky breath. "All right, I will distract them. I will say I want to learn to cook bibingka. Ask Remedios to teach me. You search the kitchen." They waited until they were called for dinner. The table was set again, but this time there were only places for the family and the 2 guests. The feast was over. This was intimate, personal. The main dish was a stew in a large clay pot, thick and dark. It smelled of tamarind and vinegar and iron. "Kinilaw nga laman loob," Gimo announced proudly. "Fresh organ meat in sour broth, a Labang specialty. We only serve it to the most honored guests." Leticia's stomach turned. Fresh organs. From where? From whom? Sophia stood abruptly. I am sorry, but I would like to learn to cook traditional foods. Would you teach me, Mrs. Labang? To make bibingka, perhaps? It was clumsy, transparent, but Remedios's eyes lit up with something like genuine pleasure. Of course, what a thoughtful child. Come to the kitchen. I will show you. She led Sophia away. Leticia saw Sophia glance back, frightened but determined. Leticia forced herself to sit, to smile, to lift her spoon and take a small sip of the stew. It was vile, bitter and metallic. She swallowed and fought not to gag. You do not like it? Guillermo asked, his voice soft, dangerous. It is very strong. I am not used to such rich food. You will learn. He ladled more into her bowl. Eat. You need strength for tonight. Eulalia touched Leticia's hand. Her fingers were cold. It is an acquired taste, she said quietly. I did not like it at first either, but you get used to it. The hunger changes you. Leticia looked at her. Really looked. Eulalia's eyes were sad, almost apologetic. Was there a part of her that was still human? Still the lonely girl who had wanted friends? Eulalia, Leticia whispered. Help us, please. Eulalia's expression did not change. I cannot, she said simply. This is what we are. This is what we have always been, and you are what you are. She paused. I am sorry, I really did want to be friends, but the hunger is stronger than wanting. From the kitchen came the sound of Sophia's nervous laughter and Remedios's patient instructions. Leticia stood. I need to use the bathroom again. My stomach. Of course. Guillermo's smile was all teeth. But do not be long. We have much to discuss tonight. Plans to make. Leticia hurried to the kitchen area. Remedios and Sophia were by the stove. Remedios showing Sophia how to mix rice flour and coconut milk. Their backs were turned. Leticia scanned the shelves quickly. There, a ceramic jar labeled ajos, garlic. She grabbed it, stuffed it inside her dress, and moved toward the stairs. Her heart was hammering so hard she thought surely they must hear it. Teacher Letty. It was Maria, standing at the base of the stairs, her small face tilted up. Where are you going? Bathroom. You went already? I need to go again. Maria studied her with those two old eyes. You are planning something. No, You smell different, like fear, like prey. She smiled, and her teeth, even the baby teeth, were filed to points. It does not matter. You cannot leave. Father has locked all the doors. The windows are barred. And even if you run, we are faster. We always catch what we hunt. Leticia pushed past her and ran up the stairs, her breath coming in gasps. She burst into the room and slammed the door, leaning against it. She had the garlic. Now what? Below she heard Guillermo's booming laugh. Let her go, Inde. Let her think she has time. It makes the meat taste better. Fear adds flavor. More laughter. The whole family, even Sophia's polite, strained giggle. Leticia's hands shook as she opened the jar. Inside, whole bulbs of garlic, papery and pungent. She grabbed several, peeled them with trembling fingers, and stuffed the cloves into every pocket, her bra, her shoes. The smell was overwhelming, sharp and clean, cutting through the sour-sweet miasma of the house. Footsteps on the stairs. Sophia entered, her face white. She knows, she whispered. Remedios knows we are planning something. She told me. She said we should rest, save our energy, that we would need it for the journey ahead. Tears streamed down her face. She said it would be quick, that they would start with the organs, the liver and heart, while we were still alive, because that is when they taste best, but that we would go into shock and not feel most of it. Leticia pulled Sophia close. We are not going to let that happen. How can we stop them? And then the idea came, terrible and desperate, and possibly their only chance. Eulalia, Leticia breathed. What? They are going to come for us in the dark. They will not see clearly. They will just smell us, sense the warmth, the heartbeat. She grabbed more garlic, pressed it into Sophia's hands. We give them Eulalia instead. Sophia's eyes widened. How? We convince her to trade places with us. Just for a moment, just to play a trick. We put her in our nightgowns, in our bed. We stuff her mouth with garlic so she cannot scream. Then we hide. When they come, they will eat their own daughter. Sophia's voice was horrified. She said it herself. They are aswang. They eat what is in front of them. In the dark, how will they know? Leticia's voice was hard. She barely recognized it as her own. It is her or us. But she is still partly human. She wanted to be friends. She was going to watch them eat us, Leticia hissed. She lured us here. This whole thing was her idea. The invitation, the fiesta, a trap to bring fresh meat to her family. Sophia's face crumpled, but she nodded. What do we tell her? That we want to play a game, a trick on her parents, city girls being silly. She wants to be our friend, right? Friends play games. It was thin. It relied on Eulalia's loneliness, her desire to be accepted, overcoming her better judgment. But they had nothing else. They heard the family moving around downstairs, the clink of dishes being cleared, low voices, and then, clear as a bell, Gimo's voice. Oras na. It is time. Leticia moved fast. She opened the door and called softly, Eulalia, can you come here? We want to show you something. A city game. A pause, then light footsteps. Eulalia appeared in the doorway, curious. What game? It is called Switch, Leticia said, improvising wildly. We trade places and see if anyone notices. You dress like us, we dress like you. Then, in the morning, we surprise everyone. Eulalia tilted her head. Why? Because it is fun. Because you said you wanted to be our friend. Don't friends do silly things together? For a long moment, Eulalia just looked at them. Then, slowly, she smiled. A real smile, young and hopeful. All right, I have never played games before. Teach me. They moved quickly. Eulalia stripped off her yellow dress and put on one of the cotton nightgowns. Her body was thinner than it should be, the ribs visible, the skin very pale. But she looked happy. Now what? Now you lie down in our bed, Sophia said, her voice shaking, and we will put flowers in your hair. Make you look like a city girl sleeping. Eulalia lay down obediently. Leticia and Sophia knelt beside her, tucking the blanket around her. Close your eyes, Leticia whispered. It is part of the game. Eulalia closed her eyes, still smiling. Leticia pulled a whole bulb of garlic from her pocket, peeled it with shaking fingers, looked at Sophia, who was crying silently. I am sorry, Leticia whispered. Then she shoved the garlic cloves into Eulalia's mouth. Eulalia's eyes flew open. She tried to scream, but Leticia clamped her hand over the girl's mouth, pressing hard. Sophia grabbed a strip of cloth, one of their uniform sashes, and tied it around Eulalia's head, gagging her. Eulalia thrashed, her eyes wide with betrayal and terror. Her skin where the garlic touched was blistering, smoke rising from her lips. She made terrible, muffled sounds. We are sorry, Sophia sobbed. We are so sorry, but we want to live. They tied Eulalia's hands with another sash, bound her feet. Then they pulled the blanket over her, hiding her struggles. Leticia and Sophia grabbed their own clothes and squeezed under the bed, a tight fit, barely any space, but enough. They lay flat in the dust and darkness, clutching more garlic in their fists, and waited. The house fell silent. The lamp downstairs was extinguished. Then the sounds began. Wet, tearing sounds, the sound of bodies changing, bones cracking and reforming, guttural breathing, and that smell, vinegar and rot, growing stronger. Footsteps on the stairs, not human footsteps, something heavier, multiple somethings. The door to their room creaked open. Through the gap between the floorboards and the bed, Leticia saw them. They were no longer human. Gimo walked on all fours, his body elongated, his arms too long, ending in hands with claws like scythes. His face had stretched into a snout, the mouth splitting ear to ear, filled with hundreds of needle teeth. His eyes glowed red in the darkness. Remedios was worse. Her torso had separated from her legs, dangling entrails that writhed like tentacles. Her upper body floated, arms ending in razor talons. Bat wings sprouted from her back. John and Maria scuttled like spiders, their joints bending backward, their mouths distended. And Teodoro, he was barely recognizable. Just a mass of teeth and hunger, a living maw. They circled the bed where Eulalia lay hidden, sniffing, drooling. Black saliva dripped onto the floor, hissing where it landed. "Name it," Gimo growled. "Delicious." Tambo cag fresco, fat and fresh. Remedios descended on the bed. Her claws rent the blanket. She pulled it back, revealing Eulalia's bound form. For one terrible moment, Leticia thought they would recognize her, would see their daughter and stop. But they did not stop. They fell on her like starving dogs, tearing and rending. Eulalia's muffled screams turned to gurgles, then silence. The sounds of feeding were obscene, cracking bones, wet tearing, satisfied growls. Leticia closed her eyes and pressed her face against the floor, trying not to vomit, trying not to scream. Beside her, Sophia was shaking so hard the floor trembled. It seemed to last hours, the feeding frenzy, the family devouring every piece, fighting over the organs, the liver, the heart. Their hunger was bottomless, mindless. Finally the sounds quieted, satisfied grunts, the rustle of them leaving, their transformed bodies slithering and crawling back downstairs to digest their meal. Leticia and Sophia lay frozen under the bed, not daring to move. Blood dripped through the floorboards onto their faces. They did not wipe it away. They waited and waited. Hours passed, the night deepened, and then from outside a sound that was the most beautiful thing Leticia had ever heard. A rooster's crow. But it was wrong. Too early. The sky through the shutter cracks was still black. The rooster crowed again, insistent, and again. Someone had forced it to crow. Someone in the barrio knew what was happening and had intervened. Downstairs, a terrible screaming began, inhuman shrieks of agony. Leticia risked a look. She crawled out from under the bed, every muscle stiff. Sophia followed. The room was a slaughterhouse, blood everywhere, fragments of bone, a hand small and pale, with filed teeth marks on it. They could not think about it, could not process it. They ran to the window, threw open the shutters. They had been unlatched from the outside, escape route. The sky was indeed still dark, but the screaming continued below. The sounds of bodies burning, flesh crisping, the aswang caught in their transformed state when the rooster crowed. Leticia and Sophia climbed out the window onto the roof of the silong, then dropped to the ground. They ran, barefoot, still in their blood-stained nightgowns, clutching garlic. They ran to the chapel. The door stood open. Inside, an old man with a salakot hat waited, the farmer they had seen in the rice paddy. He held a rooster under one arm. "Dalagan kamo," he said quietly. "Run. Indi kamo magbalik. Do not come back." They ran, out of Calublub, down the dirt road, through the forest. Behind them they heard shouting, saw flames rising. The barrio was burning the Labang house. They ran until the sun actually rose, pink and gold and real. They ran until they reached the next barrio, where a woman took pity on them, wrapped them in blankets, fed them lugao and salabat, while they shook and cried. They told her nothing. What could they say? When the bus came the next day, they rode it back to Iloilo City. They never spoke of what happened. Not to each other, not to their parents, not to anyone. But Leticia would never forget the smell, vinegar and burnt hair, clinging to her skin for weeks. And she would never forget Eulalia's eyes, wide with betrayal, in the moment before the gag went on. Some betrayals are necessary for survival, some hunger is never satisfied, and some invitations should never be accepted.